let's do the long intro.
What is your original unique idea behind it? And I think maybe for the extrovert, like someone who I talk to, we talk about like sort of like a well. Like the introvert has like a deep well, and it's just like thought, idea, the reservoir. And I think for the extrovert, the well is like it fills up and then they pour it out. Like they fills up and then they pour it out. They fills up and pour it out. They just keep
pain. I think we'll get into that too. Like we were talking about empathy before. It's like I have no problem relating with someone's pain or empathy. It's like I'm in touch with your emotions more than I'm in touch with my own. Like hip hop has definitely been therapeutic for me though in that, because even the way I'm talking right now has so much more emotion than when I was younger. I couldn't even talk like this. I couldn't even go, hey, what's going on, man? I couldn't talk like that. It wasn't in my skill set. And little by little hip hop has definitely brought me out of that shell, being able to emote and to be able to tap into, like you said, the lion, and now I remember that. Like, so whenever I have to go give a presentation that's not about hip hop and just about me talking or whatever, now it's like, yo, remember you're a beast. Remember you're a lion. Remember.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hit y'all with something that'll help. So take it to public speaking. We should do a whole episode on public speaking. So here's the thing about public speaking. I think most people who are introverts have been told like, oh, you're not good at public speaking. You're an introvert, right? You're timid. Oh yeah. I was like, no, it's just that the thing that you probably do well is seen as a crutch, right? Like if you're charismatic and you're outgoing, that's seen as like, oh, that's a good public speaker. It's like, no, that's just their gift. They're charismatic.
Right. Yo. What up? Let me turn you up a little. 1, 2. Yeah, you sound good. What it is, Bernard?
What up?
Maybe you're low on Clubhouse and loud on... No. I think it's loud. Maybe it's lower on... Oh, yeah.
Check.
There we go.
It's the microphone.
That'll rattle those wires around. I was going the other night with a popping sound the whole night on my show, and people finally told me like 2 minutes before it ended, hey, you get this popping sound.
Yeah, that's what happened last week on this. I was telling you about.
Right.
The crackle, crackling.
Well, it returned, and nobody told me on the other show. I was like, I got off, and it was like 2 minutes to go after like an hour and a half. They were like, yeah, there's a little pop in there. I was like, well, I guess it's not that bad, but it seems to have healed itself. So I got to say, Bernard, I read this topic, and this is the first one. I'm not sure if it feel like it defines me at all.
Okay.
So the whole topic, the whole breakdown, eternal grudges, right? Do you hold grudges? Do people rush you to get over things? Maybe that one. Are you petty, mean, always angry? There's nothing wrong with you. You're just an introvert. I don't know if I hold grudges, but I know people rush me to get over things. So I know those sound like they don't agree, but it's like I feel like personally that I'm kind of like, oh, that happened, whatever, let's move on. But people will always like sometimes expect that to happen too quick. It's like you gotta give someone their time. Like if you really, really did me dirty, I'm not going to play basketball with you the next week, and I got friends that are like, it never happened. Like, bro, like you totally dissed me in front of a crowd, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, you think it's all good. I'm willing though to put things in the past. There's a level at which I'm not willing. It's like, you're not going to come burn my house or whatever. And I'm going to be like, oh, let's just forgive. No, there's no, like, what good does that do me? Like, I know you did me wrong. I know I don't, you'll hear people say, well, if people are toxic, they just can't be in my world. Okay. So how is that different than, more, I should say that sounds different than people saying you should forgive. Well, I think the new generation of like, self-help, self-care is all about, people that are toxic, let's get them out of our life. That speak I agree with. I'm like, look, if someone is a pain, they're no good to you, they're not helping you, they're not moving you along, I'm good. You know what I mean? but I don't feel like I'm mean. I don't feel like and I don't even feel like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just from my central point. Unless you mean something different, I'm interested to hear your thing. I don't think that's petty. I'm like, you did me dirty, you did me wrong, and we're not really having any discussion about it. I don't need to ever call you again. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. Like, I'm happy to go eat French fries and sit at the corner table and read my book and write my rhymes. You know?
Well, there's a lot in here, but the mean part, I think I was thinking more the perspective from the other person. Like, introverts come off as mean. So I put all those words together: the angry, the mean, the petty, the grudges, because I
Right.
think that's often the paint brush that introverts are painted with. Like, oh, that's that person who is like stubborn and they're still thinking about, like, you still thinking about that. Like, I had a student this past year who was like mad disrespectful. And a lot of times the students were mad disrespectful, but the thing was, I had let this kid get away with so much stuff. Like, he should have been in class, he was skipping, and then I even went extra miles to be like, yo, all right, I'll set up this thing so you can record, blah blah blah. And then when I was recording, he's talking, and I was like, yo, can you like shut up? And then he's talking about something. Oh, you this song ain't that serious. You act like you going worldwide. I was like, yo, can you like shut up? Because I literally just helped you in so many ways, and you're going to be disrespect, and we're doing the same thing. So I would expect the least amount of respect for the same craft that we're doing. So I was just, so then, he came back, he's like, oh, you still thinking about this? This was like, and that's the other thing. People are like, oh, that was like 2 weeks ago. I was like, no, it was like Thursday. It was like a few days ago, maybe, or last week. Yeah, it was so long ago. Yeah, maybe for you, it was like 3 days ago. So I think, oh, you're on mute.
I was just saying, well, it's what happens in between. I mean, if it could be a year ago. If you never talked,
Right.
it still was the
Exactly.
last time you talked.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So it's comments like that where people, they do something, I get mad, and then they're upset that I'm still upset. Like like yeah, the term time heals all. I was like, yeah, time heals all if you do the work
Yeah.
and make the reparations for it. So that was more the mean thing. I think there's times where I just perceive people like, oh, why you still like stewing on that? And it's like, well, whether I am or not, I am. Two, uh, I have the right to be mad. Not saying it's gonna be healthy, but like, don't tell me when to get over something, especially the person who's in the wrong. That's the worst part, when the person's like, "Oh, you still upset at me?"
Yeah. 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 You still
Like,
upset that I burned your car? Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the clock on your forgiving me is up.
Right.
You need to hurt. So I think that was the mean thing. So to all the other stuff you were saying, I mean, it's definitely complex. I mean, there's many layers. There's how you grew up. There's your, if you believe in any kind of, religion, God. Also, I think, yeah, like temperament. But I remember reading a book about personalities, and it said, you tend to be angry at injustice, and do you hold long grudges? I was like, yeah. How does this book know? So I made this connection. I was like, oh, are they saying like that's just the way we are? Like, introverts were just grudge holders, or you know, we get mad. But I think the book was saying like this doesn't mean it's okay to be this way. It's just saying these are some attributes that are often associated with you. And when it mentioned the justice thing, I was like, oh, I think that's true. I think introverts hold on to deep grudges because that's like who we are for the world too. Like, when
Mhm.
we see injustice, we're like, yo, that's wrong. Like,
For sure.
I will hold on to that till I die. Like, if none of y'all remember, I'm
Yeah.
gonna remember. But
Right.
then I think we do that to ourselves too. So I hold on to like personal grudges because I have that capacity in me for like big picture grudges.
Yeah. Where my mind went, especially the end of you explaining that, it's complex. So I would say this sounds cowardly. So let me let me preface this. Like, this sounds cowardly, but I think of it as self-preservation. Like, okay, if you wrong me and you have weapons on you, I'm gonna act like it's no big deal. Right? Call me a coward. Like, if I know that you're crazy, you're a gunslinger, you're somebody who's carved up the party a few times before, and you see me in a public place, and you're like, bro, we all good? I'll be like, oh yeah, we're all good. Right? But I ain't calling you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, I just don't want no drama. I don't want the fact that you might slice me up. You know what I mean? You might lose one. Like, I don't need to go to that route. Like, life is short. You know what I mean? And If that sounds cowardly, so be it. But I would say this: at this advanced stage of my life, right, where I'm no longer in high school, I'm well beyond high school. That I'm very self aware of where I stand on things. I know what my limits are. Like I know when like sometimes people will have that nervous laugh. They'll be like, ah, ha, ha, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute. They just said something that affected me at my core. Right? Like you're just into laughing. So that's what I mean. Like I'm just saying, I'm at the party. I'm supposed to be social. Hey, yeah, that's cool. All right, cool. And then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, double take. Like I just realized you just said something that didn't gel with me. I can't let that go. Like
Right.
I either need to remove myself, confront you, or confront you at a later date, right? And like I said, it might not be safe to confront everybody at the right place, right? So it might come off as cowardly or what. I don't care, like call it what you want. But if you violate my safety and I feel like I'm threatened, then that might change, right? Sometimes people put it right in your face and you have no choice but to react like somebody's just a nut job and they've offended you in a way that you can't let go. And then those are always those problems where it's like, okay, we have to, before we leave the house, think about where we stand on certain issues. Like what is so egregious that I can't let it go, right?
Right.
And I have a short list. Like my list is not long. There's a short list of things that you can do that would take me to that point, right? But I'm aware once I see them, I go, oh, I know how to react now. Like and again, it's like a safety reaction mechanism. It's not so much like natural reaction. It's like most introverts, I've thought about it, right? Of
Right.
like, I can't let this happen because this leads to this and this leads to this, and it's a wrap, right? And so if any of that stuff has happened, I'm not forgiving and forgetting with that kind of stuff. Like, unless there's a long intercession of stuff that had to come up because you violated a core tenet. You know what I mean? So for instance, if I found out you're a racist, right? I'm not going to dinner with you. I might go to dinner with you to discuss the fact that you're a racist and see if there's anything that can happen there. But it's not like, hey, we should go out and do pizza. No, we shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like it depends what level of the threshold stuff has happened. And I think that's why I didn't agree with petty, because I'm never, and I know that's a popular word, so maybe we're just saying it in that sense, but I'm like, I'm never petty about it. I'm like, it has to violate a core tenet, right, of my being, then I don't find that petty. Like, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like if obviously we could take it to kids, pets, home, things that are important to us, right? You can't violate them and have me give you a reaction that is not, it's not going to be petty is all I'm saying. That to me
Right.
isn't petty. And that's where I was like, I'm not just like, I'm all set with you because I'm all set. I usually
Right.
realize that people are a work in progress, and I'm like, let's see again, and I'm around people. I think my wife is a little bit more short tempered with me. With people, she's like, oh, I'm good, and I'm like, you never know. Let's just find out. There might be something going. I guess I've been around more idiots. Like people need second chances, but after it's like a certain point, I'm like, come on, this ain't petty anymore. This is serious.
Man, there's so much. Well, one, okay, I think again, petty is again like the word mean is more from the outward perspective, one. But I also
Okay.
think petty, I guess I would translate that to more the idea that introverts, I think we get set off by like detailed things.
Yes. True.
So to other people, they're like, that's so petty. And
Right.
we're like, no, that's just focused, specific, and nuanced.
It's telling. I like to say sometimes the petty stuff is telling, and I'll be like, no, that's not petty. That's telling.
Well,
Like
I think
you don't leave a tip at a restaurant. That's telling. You know what I'm
well, it's because
saying?
yeah, it's like I think trying to there's a parallel I'm trying to think of, but I think I don't know. I get it. There's this idea of I did this whole recording which I talked about small things, and I was like, what is it about like the world, small like insects, bugs, atoms? There's something about small things reverberate to like the planets, like the atoms
Sure.
kind of
Quantum
represent the
technology,
planet.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew you would go there. Scale. It's about
Yeah.
scale.
I you
So
know I
like you're
would.
saying, someone doesn't leave a tip that speaks to you of something larger.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in class or was teaching school and people would do stuff, some people were like, "What's the big deal?" I'm like, because it represents something larger. Like this is
Right.
one isolated moment of the bigger picture. And I think we see the world different. Like the introvert sees the big picture. We see moment, big picture. So we're just like, oh, we're just here on the scene of the movie of your life. So this is probably the pattern. We're probably in the stop motion or stop freeze frame of your life pattern. So to you, you're like, what's the big deal? I just did this thing one time. And I'm like, yes, I'm sure that's probably related to your character though, because if I see you tomorrow and the day after, it's not like you're going to be like, I'm not doing it anymore. You're probably still that way. I think introverts, we look at character and how people are, and we're looking, like you said, the core. We see, like you said, core. We're looking at the core of who people are. I don't just see a person do an action and say, oh, that was just a one-off action.
Right.
Like, you don't necessarily say that's, I mean, it's balanced, because yeah, sometimes I see people do something, it's like, okay, that wasn't who they are. You just caught them on a bad day. But I think because we do hone in on that sort of internal, intuitive, inner thing, we're like, that came from somewhere. Like philosophically, it's like that came from an intention. You don't just do actions. You don't just show up and move your body randomly. Like, you're not an object, you're a human. So when I see you do something, I'm thinking, okay, you probably thought that.
You probably thought that.
It became a emotion. That emotion went into motion and action. But as we've discussed, a lot of people aren't self-aware, so they probably didn't think that. They were probably just doing stuff. But we think like that. Because if I would have done something to you, I was like, ooh, dang, I did that to pro on purpose. Like, I knew what I was like. No, it was this. It was like this comedian on Last Comic Standing. He said, I think he had Tourette syndrome, so that was most of his act. And he said, he's like, I was cursing somebody out one time, and she was like, that's the Tourette's, isn't it? He's like, no, that's just me. He said, so when I'm cursing you out, I really mean it. He's like, I intentionally and directed this towards you.
Right. Yeah. No, my mind was just, I couldn't help going into the quantum world with that. I don't know. It made me think of I don't know if you've heard of decoherence. It's sort of I don't know how into at all you are. I don't think I've ever asked, hey, Bernard, you into quantum mechanics at all? I just always assume that because I'm into it, you must be.
Yeah, I like quantum physics, quantum computers. I'm all about quantum.
Right. Okay, cool. So you've probably heard the term kicked around a little bit, at least, of decoherence. And for those who are watching who are not into it, I mean, it just kind of reminded me of the sort of what's reverberating out there. I don't know how even best. I always have trouble explaining some of these concepts, but especially in quick scenarios. But it's basically like you have, there's a thing called superposition. You have states of superposition, and they're very sensitive to any kind of disturbance. Like if somebody's like coming in the room with lab gloves, let's say, to give you an analogy, like quantum things that are in quantum objects are super sensitive. It's like they have super hearing, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, someone just came in the room. Like, it's like you can't sneak up on quantum, right? So the disturbances cause the superposition to diminish and finally collapse, right? And then the quantum characteristics are then gone. You can't really calculate them anymore. So that process is decoherence, and it's in quantum. It's a super challenge that you face, obviously, in quantum technology. If like it was there and then it's gone, right? So you have this sort of contradiction, if you will, between you're trying to, on one hand, get this thing in its pure state, just sort of, isolating the entire system from the possible, from anything in its surroundings that would cause this issue, to avoid this decoherence happening. And then you need to manipulate the system itself. You need to be able to manipulate the system so you can take these readings. And it just makes me think about trying to get things to reverberate out in the big world, and the inherent problem there is with that. But yet underneath it all, at sort of a quantum level, we think about the quantum and the macroscopic, like the world we live in now. And it's hard to draw the connection in quantum. That's something that had over here. The cause and effect is very difficult in the real world. We're like, wait, when did it pass this threshold? But now we don't see the quantum stuff anymore. It's like, it seems like it's gone, but it's there. You know what I mean? It's like, or at least it was there. It's just when you go in to take the measurement, it's like, so it's tough to prove. It's tough to say this reverberation actually happened, I know I'm going way off on a tangent, but it's the bigger point that I was thinking about in my mind is just like I feel when there's a ripple in the force. It's like, I know I'm mixing the metaphors. I feel like, this was really telling of something that's fundamental at your core, that I've watched the reverberation all the way out into the macro, probably not even into the super macro. I can see where it's going, and I'm like, I feel like we're talking about patterns of decoherence here. Like, I'm like, okay, I can see, I know it's going to disappear now that we talk about it, because I'm going to make it into more than it is. And you're going to be like, what are you even talking about? I'm like, no, trust me. You didn't pick up your plate when you ate. So I know that you're disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? And people are like, wait a minute, that's a leap. And I'm like, no, 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 no. It's like decoherence. It's like that pattern that was underlying an action that you haven't even done yet, I know is going to manifest itself. So I don't even want to take the time with you to invest in you to get you. You know, sometimes you'll hear people say, "Oh, I wouldn't have critiqued you if I didn't care," and that's usually because of the opposite. It's like, well, we saw these good traits in you, even though you screwed up here. We still see the promise, and like, you know, now I want to, you know, I want to work with you because you didn't have this problem that we're talking about with the person with the decoherence metaphor. And so a lot of times I'll just see that in someone, and I'll be like, this we come up with words where we use whatever negative insults we want in our head. Oh, this buster, or this lame, or this whatever, you know, whatever it is that we're thinking. And to them, I suppose it does look like the pettiness. And it's like, no, if you were willing to do that on any fundamental level, I'm good probably forever until I find like a suitable explanation.
I'm good forever.
Yeah. It's like, bro, you left your food. Like, I mean, I'll leave my food on the table if I'm distracted. I would trust me. I mean, if I'm distracted, I do probably just did it today, you know, but fundamentally, I am against people that leave their food on the table. I mean, you better have totally been like slipped your mind or something, right? Like, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I left that there. Like the gall of me to think that you're going to pick it up kind of thing would irk me to no end, you know. And it's just a small example, but it's like you see this in people, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I'm good. And then people be like, oh, what was the problem with him? And I have a tough time explaining it because I know how stupid it sounds, you know. But I don't think that that's petty, you know. I think it's just petty when people are like, oh, you know, he's a lefty, and I just, you know, just like stuff that you can't explain. I'm like, no, 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 he did this, so you're probably gonna do this, probably gonna do this, and you know, there's kind of telltale signs, you know. So
Right.
I guess I am a little petty.
We got a loyal.
You proved me I'm petty. So,
That's the whole point of this show. Prove pro petty.
yeah. It's not hard.
Trina's here, our loyal follower.
What up? What up?
Okay, so something you said earlier, in terms of holding grudges. Yeah, it's not like it's necessarily.
I know Tree can be petty, right? Tree, I know you can be petty, right?
It's not an active grudge. I think, yeah, for the introvert, it's more like a passive grudge. Like something happens to you and it stays with you. It's not like you go out to go get this person. You're probably rehearsing it in your head over and over and over and over, wishing you could get back at them, imagining how you can get back at them.
Yeah.
Waiting for them to come do something to you so you can react to them,
Yeah.
but you're not like actively going after them. So I think that's the one thing with the grudge. It's like,
Right.
Like I said, it's a deep well. Someone puts that little marble of injustice in you, and you're like, okay, and it just keeps getting filled up over time. And then some person gets the reaction, and they're like, "What did I do?" And it's like, you just happened to be the wrong person.
I have previous girlfriends who say that. They'd be like, "You hold things for so long," and I'm like, "I don't think I'm holding it. It wasn't an opportunity for this to be relevant because, you know, it's like I noticed it way back. It wasn't stopping me from doing anything. It was just, you know, it's one of those things where you see it and you go, I can't believe you did that. But then you're thinking about it, you're like, and I guess this is the introvert nature. I'm not going to make it a big issue in our everyday interaction if it isn't something that's like, if it's not monumental to me, it's not going away, but I remembered it. And yeah, and then be like, oh, you'll just drop it in the middle of nowhere when you're mad. And it's like, well, that's because you're looking for scenarios. You're trying to say, what else have I done? Okay, here it is. You did this, and this. I'm not physically mad at you. I'm just saying I have this in recollection, you know, like I know that you did these things, but it wasn't like egregious things to my soul. It's just stuff that I remembered. It's like, yeah, I remember when, you know, X, Y, and Z. But those aren't,
there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. I mean, I always quote, beware the wrath of a patient man.
Right.
But to the other thing, okay, so yeah, somebody like puts this marble of injustice in you, and the scales of justice in you are constantly being. It's very. We talked about this on the Easter episode. God is an introvert. ... extrovert. There in the book of Revelation, there's like the cup of God's wrath is poured up like to the brim. Like I feel like that's what it is. God's is like, okay, just keep humanity, keep filling it up. Oh, it's about to tip over. That's what it's like. You're like, just keep filling it up. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, do it again. Okay, but eventually this thing's gonna be to the brim. And it's like, okay, I can't do nothing for you now because I've allowed it to get filled up, and now it has to be poured out on you or on somebody. So I think the capacity. That's why I like this topic, because I had that revelation like a couple years ago. Because people are like, oh, you need to get over this. It's like, look, yes, number one, as someone who is a Christian, practicing forgiveness. Like that's like, okay, you're supposed to do that. This is in your belief system. But as a human, it's like, all right, there's obviously something in me that for whatever reason doesn't respond at the same speed as other people seem to respond. Could be personal stories as well, but I think there just is something to the fact that introverts just have this deep well. And as much as you would like to, I guess here's the best way to put it. The parallel of the patience is like the parallel of the unforgiveness. It's like the the both sides of the same coin. Introverts are very patient and long suffering. But with that often comes the grudge. It's like, okay, we put up with that for a long time, so I could have exploded on you right away. I could have exploded you on the next day, but
Yeah.
I withheld. I kept
Right.
it's very much a biblical picture. I kept, okay, I'll put all right, mercy, grace, okay, forgiveness, okay, wrath. I'm putting it off. I'm deferring the payments of wrath towards you. So obviously, I still have to do my own work to be like, okay, maybe I need to like detoxify. What's the word? Toxic cleanse or whatever. Get the toxic emotions out more regularly so it doesn't build up. But it doesn't change the fact that I have that capacity. So I think I just want to like validate and acknowledge the capacity aspect of it. It's not like, oh, I'm just holding on to this for a long time because I want to, because I enjoy stewing. It's just like I'm just a deeper well person.
Yeah.
And I typically just like kind of like you to certain degrees, like, okay, I could deal with that. But I mean that's related to like, other issues where it's like, okay, why don't you deal with stuff in the present? But I don't like when people characterize it like you're still holding on to it. I mean, I actually talked to somebody once. He's like, you're still onto this. I was like, don't tell me how long I'm doing it. Like you have some kind of timetable in your mind of when I'm supposed to get over it, but that's not the case. So stop doing that to me, because you're like commenting on, in some ways, part of myself which I can't control, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah. Now I'm with you. Now I got you. Now I've also come to the realization I'm a little more petty than I thought.
This is
Trina
free.
agrees,
This is
though.
brought to you by the new wing of BetterHelp, Bernard Help. This is coming here. You get your thoughts sorted out.
It's funny. It's I was thinking about the dichotomy of privilege in terms of being privileged enough to feel like you don't have that many problems, right? The first world problem of not having many problems. But then I balance that. The reason I say dichotomy or juxtaposition, whatever you want, is then it's in like, I just think like my personality is the type where I don't dwell on the problem too much if there's not a ready solution, right? It's like if there's basically it's the whole if it's out of my control, right? It's like I can think of all the screwed up things that there are, but I don't dwell on them. Like it kills me that there are conspiracy theorists who believe that the world is flat, right? Like I'm in the rooms all the time on Clubhouse. We're on Clubhouse too. I'm in all kinds of detox rooms, if you will, kind of what the word you were saying, for people that just don't use common sense in terms of, well, don't use scientific sense. When there's no other evidence, they just choose the bad thing. Like if there's 2% say this and 98% say this, well, I'm going to go with the 2%. It's like, no, I go with the 98%. Generally, it's not a bad life lesson. It's like the preponderance of evidence is not a bad way to go if you're just not that up on certain things, right? And then when you are up on certain things, the foolishness that I find where people to just this sort of anti-expert kind of like mentality, like, well, these million lifelong physicists and physicians who are trying to tell you something, they're suddenly all in on a conspiracy, or that, yeah, like that kind of silly thinking could keep me up at night. And in fact, some of my free time I do devote to going in these rooms, and I'll try to help someone out and try to see, without trying to come off as a math elitist or whatever. I'll just say, all right, look, here's a few probability things to think about and see what you think about them. And just so we can give you kind of a test, a baseline test of where you're at in terms of understanding likeliness, probability, scenario, right? That kind of stuff I could go crazy on because there's so many of them, but I'm generally dwelling on other things that I like, right? Or I'll be like, oh, here's a problem that I do like that I can solve more readily, and I think this helps people, and let me go do this, right? So we have this selective, I think, attention that can permit us to not get lost in the the self-help kind of misery, be like, oh, I just need, I need a massage, I need a therapist, I generally am not a very needy person for all those kinds of things, but I'm not against them. If someone wants to give me free therapy, if someone wants to give me, a free whatever manicure, whatever people go do for self-help kind of stuff, that's cool. But you know what I do? I say, oh man, I can't wait to go to the movies. Or, I can't wait to go sit at this favorite new restaurant spot I found that has great Greek salad. And, I can get a drink and sit down because it's a serene place where I can think and chill and think out my introverted thoughts, right? Like we all have different ways that we do stuff. But because I do that so much, I feel like I'm in a pretty good place, obviously, until I'm not, right? I feel like I'm in a pretty good place. And then I think, okay, is this just a privilege thing? Like, is it like because my life's not crappy, right? So there's that's always going on, right? We're always got to be taking an inventory and say, realize the privileges. It's basically counting your blessings, and at the same time, trying to help someone who may not be as blessed in that particular area, right? And finding motivation to do that is kind of the thing that keeps me from being the pissed off, miserable, mean, grudgy, petty kind of person. Because I don't think when people meet me, they'd say, oh, Pro's a very petty person. I think it's the opposite. I think I'm generally a helpful person. I'm generally a nice person. I'm not trying to make anyone's life miserable, right? But if you come into my world and you're not helpful in any of those areas, or and helpful could mean needing of something that I can help with, right? Also, it's a two-way street. Then I probably just keep it moving. But I don't have any ill will. It's not like I'm like, and that's why the characterization of the introvert as the sort of mean, but like, bro, my life's good. And I'm just trying to make other people's life better. And when my life isn't good, I'm trying to fix me first so that, I'm trying to put the gas mask on so I can go help the children. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's generally my outlook. But I've met introverts who seem miserable. Like, and I see they're my people right away. And I go, oh, there's my people. I do it every class I teach. Every single class I teach, I go up, let me find the introvert. I got a new kid in my class. I was calling him Shakespeare because he talked about Shakespeare for his day. He was looking at his feet. He couldn't look up. He couldn't do anything, right? And he's cool. I'm like, he's my people. And within 6 minutes, I let him know he was my people. I rattled off like 10 things just for him that he knew, and I was going down the Lord of the Rings hole with him. I was doing everything, right? I was like, bro, I see you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I see you. I'm with you. Like, I got you. I can't wait to help him, and I want to help him not be miserable. Like, there's a way for you to function in a social world as an introvert without having to stare at your feet, look up, and come off completely antisocial, and those little things help me get through. That's it. That's my little take on why I don't feel we're mean and miserable and that we're so off on an island. I mean, we're off on an island for a reason.
Well, okay, I'm gonna connect what you said. Privilege. I'm gonna go deep into that, and then I'm gonna connect that to this point. All right. So what you just said about the introvert mean. Okay, here's what I think. Right. So Daniel Pink has this book called Drive, and he said, Henry Ford, when people were working on the plant line of this production company, you weren't allowed to smile, and if you did, you got fired. Because smiling meant you were having a good time.
Non-productive.
Yeah, it means if you're smiling, you can't be serious, which means you can't be focused, which means you can't be doing a good job, which means money. So people associate this with happiness, good, inviting, and they associate this with like over serious, mean, stay out of my way, don't talk to me, I'm trying to work, whatever. So I think introverts, like, at least for me, I'll say, like, yeah, I have the stoic face most of the time. So I'm not gonna smile at you randomly. Like, if you smile at me, I might smile, but you probably like, oh, like people literally think, oh, I thought this guy was mad at me. It's like, oh, I'm just sitting here.
Heard that
like,
a bazillion times.
Yep. I'm just sitting here. Like, I'm not projecting or directing this at you. You're pulling it off of me for some reason.
Right.
So I think the introvert, though, like I said, is more connected to these deep justice issues. So there's a part of you that's like, yeah, I want to look serious. Like, I want to have the furrowed eyebrow because it expresses my anger towards what's going on in the world. Or like when I get in a conversation, I'm heated and people are like, oh man, this is so deep. And it's like, yes, it is. Like, I think that petty thing too is like, when I get into stuff, I'm like serious. And I think people take that as like, oh, are you mad at me? Or, whoa, I didn't know this was like so. I didn't know it was such a big deal. And it's like, it is. Because like when I see a kid in the class and he's bored out of his mind, I'm like, this is stupid. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, no one should be looking like this. This kid should be smiling. Speaking of smiling, I was like, this kid should be smiling right now, enjoying his education, but he looks like he wants to die. So yes, I'm angry at that because one, I know what that feels like. Two, why do we keep doing stupid stuff? So I think when you know, the introvert is more connected to the deeper issues of justice. So in a way, you have to be that island. You have to be like, hey, I can't be over here having fun with y'all. You know, it's just like when you're making music. Hey, can't go to the party. Got over here and you know, focus, making the beats. It's like, hey, can't be over here listening. I got to read this book. Got to watch this documentary. I'm like, I'm caring about the stuff. Like, I'm doing the other half of what you guys are doing. I think there's some people that are out there doing marches and rallies and making noise. And there's people here's like, hey, we got to write these books and we got to do these documentaries and we got to know like what it is we're fighting for. We can't just rally. Like, we got to connect. So I think there's some truth to the reason why we're like petty, like the things that people think, oh, you know, like, oh,
so if that's the definition, of petty, yes.
Well, it's petty. Like I said, I think petty could be translated to detail, minute, specific, nuance. Like, it seems small, so to them that's small equals petty, but to us small, like we said, equals, like you said, reverberation, coherence.
Well, exactly, the reverberation. So the reverberation, I mean, I was even just thinking of that as you said it. I was like, okay, the reverberation, if you will, to follow this in a similar but different way, right, of me keeping my closet very tidy, right, is because I generally don't have the time in the morning to dedicate trying to find some stuff that looks like halfway decent. I do it ahead of time, right? So I'm excited that my closet is already arranged. It's like Garanimals. It's like I got my pants that I want. I got my shirt over here. I got my boom. I'm good. Like, it's not because, and this, I don't know. I'm not, okay, I'm going to put it out there. I'm not positive, but I don't think I'm obsessive compulsive because I have too many areas of my life that don't appear to be anything close to obsessive compulsive, right? Like, I'm sitting in here with a completely messy floor, right? It's unbelievably messy over there. Now, it irks me that it's messy, but not so much that I have to break down and put it back in order, kind of thing. I'm an orderly person because I know the benefit that order brings to me. And I do like the serene. I like an environment that's serene. Like, it's bothering me right now, this white piece that I can see over here of this thing that it's not up. Like, I don't like this thing. I need to fix it, right? Like, and I'm going to get the spray because I went to the store and I got the spray out, right? So I got the spray type that's going to stick on your wall. Now, kids, don't get this at home if you don't want it to really commit to it really going permanent on your wall. But that's bothering me. So you could say, I just did an episode with Pro, and he was so bothered by the
Bob Vila. Ask this old house. Ask this old introvert.
Ask this old introvert. Like, I was bothered enough by that to do that in the middle of a show, so one person could say, "Yo, he's so obsessive compulsive. He stopped in the middle of the show." Obviously, I'm trying to make the point, but at the same point, yeah, it bothers me. But I was gonna say not so much that I have to go fix it right now while I'm doing the show, which ironically is what I did to make the point. But it's been there for weeks, right? The true OCD person couldn't let that happen, right? I know about it, and I say in my head rationally, I go, is it really the biggest deal? No. I recorded 3 songs this morning. Is it really changing the sound quality that there was a little bit of wall like right over there? And plus, I'm right in front of another, one of these portable booth things. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's going to sound pretty good, right? It's like the true OCD person wouldn't. I say this because I'm thinking in other areas of my life where it's like, okay, I have my academic life arranged reasonably time conserving. I have my writing and creative. This is the area that I do a lot of creative, relatively organized over here because it's smart to do so, right? Because today is the day. Today's really truth be told, it's a money day for me. I had 3 projects that I had to get done, all of which I was getting paid to do, that were rap songs, right? I got 3 of them done. Now, and again, I'm always trying to put this stuff out there for people to understand. Like, the amount of money that I potentially made today was $8,500. It's a minimum of $3,500, but it might be $8,500. One of them is in negotiation, right? And there's something tied to that. Now, all of that order in my life led to me getting the $8,500. It's not because I'm like, order is so incredible. No, it's like, I can't do the juggling act that I have to do, which means if you are petty, if you are someone taking me off my game, it's not that I'm mean. Like those pictures I just posted of myself up there. It's not that I'm mean. It's that I like myself. and I know the work that I'm doing is helpful to
Right.
other people. So if pro can't do the thing pro needs to do, like, then there is no pro. And I have to be maximum efficiency. And that includes cutting people out of my life that are not helping. That includes not going to ridiculous, silly things. I don't need to go, hey, let's go have fun for 5 seconds. I don't need, hey, let's go to the carnival. I'll go to the carnival. Carnival's a dope. But I don't
Right.
need to go to the carnival because I can be home working on something that seems like drudgery to someone else, but it's
Right.
helping me for the thing that I really love to do, which is being creative. And I know how this appears. This appears to people like, what a miserable old wretch. Oh, or he's just about the money, or he just wants to. No, it's, we got goals. We know what we need to do, and we got to make
Right.
things work efficiently. You know, so I think the appearance comes off. And I'm really, I'd end it like this. I'm really empathetic to other people who may be like that on the social end of the spectrum too, because everything we do, to your point last week, is because of reward or punishment, right? There's a carrot or stick. Everything is because of some perceived value that there is, and it's just a hierarchy of what you put your values on. I would just claim that introverts, their value is more long term than it is short
Right.
term, and I find
Right.
this creative part of us allows us to do a little bit of that. But otherwise, it's the extrovert that I find to be in the short term more so than the long term.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think like I said, the petty equals small detail, the microscopic, and so we are affected. Okay, I read this quote one time. It said, "To people who are very highly sensitive, the world can appear to be more harsh than it actually is."
Yes,
And I was
I've
like,
heard that.
oh, I was like that defines me. So thing like you're saying about the reverberation, something comes in the room, you're like, oh,
Yep.
like yeah, like when somebody's in the room, I'm like, okay, you're here, I can sense you, you know,
Yep.
like
Yep.
you know where the nuances happen, the details. Like I'm always picking up on stuff, and people are like, oh, you noticed that? I was like, not on purpose. It's just like I just am. My receptors
Couldn't
are
help but
always
notice.
on.
Yeah.
Like my hairs are always like feeling the wind's breeze kind of things.
Yeah.
Like mentally, intellectually, that's how my mind's like, oh, that was different. Oh, like I notice when somebody changes a haircut. I may not
Yep.
tell you, but I was like, oh,
Yep.
haircut. Oh,
Yep.
yep, glasses. Oh, that guy's face is different.
Yep.
So that's why you should marry me, because I'm always gonna notice your haircut. New dress, new shoes, you know what I'm saying? But okay, so we're always in touch with the microscopic. And so I think that's where the mean part comes in again. Because like I said, when I'm arguing at stuff, I'm so angry and I'm so serious. And I think some people are like, it's not that serious. And I'm like, but it is. Because it's like it represents the planet. The thing that you see as the atom, I'm saying is connected to the planet.
Right.
You're saying it's just a little molecule. I was like,
Right.
no, it's all of the
It's the
molecules.
short term. Yeah, it's
It's
short term.
all of the stars. It's all of the planets. It's all of the billions of galaxies. Like this is all connected because
Yeah,
we see
micro
them,
macro is what we're saying. We're both saying the same thing.
and they're connected by this string. And when one moves, the other moves. Like you can't have a universe that isn't moved. Like you
Wait
say
a
on
minute
the
now.
micro macro.
Wait a minute now. What are you doing there, Bernard? You want to go back to quantum now, or what are we doing? We talking
No, we're
string
not going
theory?
to quantum. So I'm just saying, I think the meanness idea, or it's like, okay, mean or serious, like those words I think are in the same category. Someone who is very serious, like I said, your face appears to be mean, when really you're like, no, I'm just passionate about this. Like I'm intense about this. I'm not angry at you who I'm talking to, but I am angry. Like I'm yelling at the world. I'm yelling at the problems. And so I think that interpretation to them is where they kind of check out, because they're like, they need the introvert to even point out the microscopic problems first to like make them visible. They're like, oh, I didn't even know that was a problem. I didn't even know that we were doing that. I'm like, yes, you're doing that. That's the first level of anger. Then the second level of anger is like, oh, and we could fix this so easily. Like if I go into a faculty meeting at school, which I'm not, I don't work there anymore, but everybody's just like, so here's our data, and here's, these kids are not keeping up. And I'm sitting there like, are we still talking about this? Yep. I'm like, you think the problem is these numbers on the PowerPoint. I'm saying, Billy, John, Sarah, whoever here doesn't have anything to eat, or or they hate their teacher. So let's keep talking about the data and the standardized test versus talking about this human being here who is a whole human being with mind and emotions, and you're not considering the wholeness of them. Let's talk about that thing. let's address that, and then let's see
Mm.
some results. But like you're saying, it's short term.
Yeah.
So they'll do the carrot and the stick. It's like, well, they just need to get in line with the rules. And if we punish them enough or reward them enough, they'll get in line with the rules. And I'm like, yeah, for a time. And
Right.
then it's going to fail. And then you're like, how come this isn't working? I was like, because you didn't address truth. You
Well,
didn't address the humanity. You addressed like what you wanted it to be.
it makes me think too, like formulaically, is there a carrot stick formula that people need to have for themselves? Like, I feel like I have a really good measure of that internally. Like,
Right.
I know my carrots and I know my sticks. I know things that really piss me off and I know things that really float my boat, right? And the thing is, the truthfulness of it is there's not a lot of them on either end. There's not a lot of things. And that's what makes it so easy for me to be aware of them. Do you ever meet people that they just have a bazillion things that they can't stand? And it's like, I am generally like, all pizza's good. Like, I'm not, call me a non-foodie, even though I'm very particular once I find a place I like.
Right.
The rest of the meal experiences, I'm happy to be eating. Call it self-selection. I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm just so thrilled to be eating food, right? That I'm like, yo, this pizza, like, great. Oh, I have a pizza? Cool. I don't need to be the one that says, oh, where's it from? I've never been that person. I like pizza. Pizza's in my high likes. If I get to pick, sure, I'm going to pick a place where, oh my gosh, I can name you some incredible pizza places, but I'm pretty good with like school cafeteria pizza, like the you know what I'm saying, like crappiest that came in the cold freezer on the styrofoam tray. Like I've been eating that since kindergarten. You know what I'm saying? And I was thrilled. You know, thrilled. And this is what I say to people who are movie critics, and I'm just like, but come on,
Right.
bro. Like the movie's bad relatively, but my
Right.
7-year-old self is so thrilled. I'm watching freaking Star Wars, bro.
Right.
I'm watching Marvel, bro. I'm watching like just give me any Marvel movie and I'm generally pretty happy, even if it's a sucky Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Of course, I got my
Right.
favorite. And so, because of the awareness of what it is that I really like and I really don't like, um, it's easy to find a lot of value in the things that are in the middle. And that's why I just don't have the grumpy, like, oh, no, just like, I'm not a hotel snob. I'm not, of course, there's
Yeah.
hotels I
Right.
can go to better. I'm not a
Right.
pizza snob. I'm just not, I'm not that person, you know? Yeah, I can go spend $100 for a pair of jeans that fit me really well, but that's only because I have that money now at that stage of my life. If it was when I didn't, I can make it work with $20
Right.
just fine. Right. But it's like those are and that's that privilege thing. It's like, yeah, like when I flex the privilege, sure, of course we can all do that, but I don't find any great benefit in having to extol that upon every person that you meet down the street. Like, bro, I'm good in the $20 pair of jeans. I'm good with the cold pizza. By the way, I can
Right.
eat it cold or hot, right? Same spinach pie, famous like Greek food, spanakopita, right? Like I can eat spanakopita, right? Cold or hot, don't care. You know, but of course, if I have my druthers, yeah, I can find a perfect way to get it. But I think there's something about that with introverts. I'm just saying that I'm not saying we all will just take a pile of slop and be happy. That's not my point. Like my point is I'm appreciative of
Right.
so much, right? I'm appreciative of so much and I'm so aware of my carrots and sticks that if you really want to excite me, oh yeah,
Right.
like you can get me pizza from over there. Oh bro, that's like crazy
Right.
that you went out of your way and got that. And I think when we know what motivates us is the bottom line of this. We know what
Right.
motivates us and we know what pisses us off. It's easy to be more productive, I just find, because I'm working towards that. I really pinpointed in on the things that truly make me happy. Um, it's a short list. Again, just like my places that I like pizza from or whatever. It's a short list. It's easy to say. I can rattle it off. Like, boom, hey, what makes you happy? Boom, hey, what pisses you off? Boom, here you go.
Right.
Injustice pisses me off more than anything. Injustice. How could you possibly be an unjust person? Right? Like we were just talking about that. Pisses me off. So anything that dabbles into that category, I'm pretty generally offended by, you know. Creativity to me is so amazing that anything creative I'm generally a fan of. Now, there's bad creativity and there's good creativity. I get it, but I'm generally happier to be watching a bad creative play than I am doing something that's not creative.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm the same way, and I mean, we talked about this a little bit last time, where I was like, I think for the extrovert, their version of the performance is usually the social. thing, the
Yeah.
parties. So they're nitpicky on like people over invitations. Was so and so, were they happy? Were you okay? You know, they're checking in on, but that's their performance. Whereas we're like, yo, were the lights right? Was the sound right? Would y'all feel good? So on either side, we're like, who cares? Just let me sit down. And them, they're like, yeah, we just had a good time at the show. What are you worried? So in the same thing you're saying that with like going to see the movie, like, yeah, even though I might be like, I don't want to see this movie, I could sit there and like find something in it. I'll be like, oh dang, I should make a movie like this.
Right.
You know, or like I tell people I'm
because
not,
it's creative. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not into sports like I used to be. I used to love the NBA when I was in middle school, but I could watch a football game or basketball game. Somebody's like, hey, you want to come to Super Bowl? Like, yeah, whatever. It's a game. I'm watching the angles and I'm like, oh, he's good. Oh, I'm watching the commercials. Like I could enjoy it.
You're not miserable. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not like, oh yeah, Super Bowl. If
I
anything,
gotta
I'm
do
like,
it, right.
oh, food. Like anything, I'm thinking food. There's gonna be people.
I think most people watch football thinking food, to be honest. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
like college football all day on a Sunday, like really? Like you care? Like,
Right.
like I have no care. Like I haven't watched a college football game more than one quarter, like in my life. You know what I'm saying? But I love sports.
Yeah, so I think I'm the same way as you. Somebody bring me a hamburger, oh, great. Or every restaurant I go to, I was like, as long as you got a hamburger and fries, doesn't have to be the greatest. Yes, I have my one that I get every weekend.
See that?
But pizza, hamburger, fries, like you said, yeah, you bring me the cafeteria styrofoam, like yeah.
Generally in a good mood about it.
So yeah, so I think there's a difference there, and that relates to what we're saying is like, yeah, to us, things we get upset about that are little are petty to them, and I think it's the reverse. Like that stuff is petty to us. Like I see people like, send that back.
Right.
Like how you dare you? I'm like, what? I'm like, for real?
I've never done that in my life.
I've only done it once.
Yeah.
And the only reason I did it because I deliberately said like, yo, I don't like mayonnaise or something.
Oh,
I hate mayonnaise.
Yeah.
So they brought it out and I kind of went like this and he was like, is there something wrong? So I was like, oh yeah, y'all got like mayo on his
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I've probably done it for that kind of stuff too. Like it was like you like, you know, something real specific. Like
right.
I don't, but I want pepperoni on it, and they bring you like sausage. It'd be like, even that. I mean, when I did eat meat, I'd be like, it's cool. It's sausage. I'll eat it. You know.
I'll tell you a story. So after like my senior year of high school, I talked about this. I worked at McDonald's, and it was like eye opening because I'm bagging the food, and there's all these orders coming through, and it's like cup of ice. Or Diet Coke, easy ice. I was like, what's easy ice? They're like, oh, they only want a little bit of ice in a drink. I was like, you can order this?
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, the world.
I'm gonna try that.
The Wizard of Oz curtain was pulled back.
It opened.
It's like only pickles, no mustard. I was like, y'all getting too specific. Because me, when I was little, I would just be pulling pickles off. I was like, I didn't know you could customize this stuff.
Me too.
I was like, no, okay. So the stuff to us in the social,
I pull meat off pizza all the time. Like, hey, whatever.
Yeah, I would pull out anchovies. Like, I'm not eating this. Yep. So I think the stuff in the social arena to us is no big deal. We're like, that's petty. Like, why would you send somebody back? That's what I would never send somebody back to remake something. Like I went to there's one place I used to go to. I was like, oh, y'all left off the bacon. And he was like, oh man, he's sorry, we backed up. Like, you mind if I cook yours next? I was like, dog, I don't care. Just give me a piece of bacon. Like he was like, oh, he was like, thank you, man. I was like, that's like a big deal.
That's a big like, thing. Yeah, no, I know. And I've met.
I was just like, just give me the pieces of bacon.
Yep.
Done. Like I don't need you to remake a whole hamburger. It's just a hamburger. It's like
I'll tell you, I appreciate though people who are like that now. I used to think there was something wrong with them. I did. I used to think there was something. I was like, basically thinking you're petty, right? But I understand. Okay, the people I know in my life that are like this, and again, it's anecdotal, who have worked extremely hard to get to where they are. And the way that they demonstrate that sometimes are in these social circles, at restaurants, going out, going on vacation, doing the things, whatever. It's the work hard, play hard kind of crowd. Right. And that play hard part, everything's got to be perfect. The outfit's got to be perfect when they go skiing, right? The coffee with the mocha, whatever it's going to be. I don't even drink coffee. It's got to be just perfect. And it's like, bro, I don't even like coffee. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like the beer snobs and all that stuff too. And I get it. Like, you know, American beer is pretty much pea water compared to like a lot of the German stuff or whatever, but I get it, right? So when you've experienced it and that is your symbolic thing, like I've climbed the mountain, I worked hard, this is my reward. I get it because they've pictured that for so long. That's their thing. I'm going to sit at the ski lodge with my friends in my cool sweater and I'm going to get Bavarian hops and I want the bedroom to have fluffy pillows. And that's like becomes the obsession, if you will, where I'm like, yo, I just get to go away. This is cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Holiday Inn Express works for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, Now, I know the difference of the Four Seasons. And honestly, I've had this conversation with you before too in family. The Four Seasons can be a little much. Like, like when it's too much for me, it becomes a burden. I want it's like my car choice. It's like I want nice, but I don't want ridiculous. Like I've honestly said, like someone said to me recently, they said, talking about, yo, your car is dope, but it's not your dream car, is it? And I was like, no, I actually have been thinking about that car for like 2 years. So it
Right.
is my dream car. I've been like,
Right.
you know what car represents me perfectly? It's the car I went and got, right? And it's like, if I could afford more, I could probably think about a couple others that do the same thing on a bigger scale. But for where I am in my world, I've been like, what would be balling out for me? And what's balling out for me is never balling out. It's always a level below balling out. Like it's got nice rims, it's got all the things you could want. It's a pretty expensive car. It's not flashy. It's the car that gets me from A to B and it does it nicely, right? It's like that always works for me. It's the same thing when I was talking about jeans. Like the pair of jeans that feel really good, that are real quality, that aren't going to rip the first time I wear them or whatever, are probably the ones I want. They don't need to say X, Y, and Z. Most of the brands I have on them, I have to go read about them later. Go, wow, these are wonderful. What are? Oh, then I find out they're typically $120 pair of jeans. No wonder I like the well-made stuff, right? But it's like I don't need that. I understand it. I come to understand this value in certain things, and you learn as you go. You travel. You're like, oh, there's a better quality. Hey, like it's no sweat off me to buy a couple of nice pairs of jeans as opposed to the Walmart jeans. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not going to set me back. And this is what I try to explain to my son without setting him up for failure too. Like when he'll say, but like he's getting stressed over like going to the movies. And I kind of want to pull him aside. I do it. I give him a little bit of both on the left and the right. I'm like, son, we can afford to go to the movies. And he's like, yeah, but daddy, the popcorn's really expensive. And I'm like, oh my God, he sounds just like me. I'm like, yes, the popcorn prices are insane. You are correct, right? But just know that we can afford that insanity. And like as a kid, I used to sneak into the movie, sneak the popcorn, sneak the drink, open up the back door, do everything that you probably shouldn't be saying to your kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, and thought it was totally normal. Like that's just what you do because the man's ripping us off. So we should make sure that we go get the man, back. But basically I'm stealing from the movie theater. It's like, if you can't afford it, don't go kind of thing, And it's like the same thing I was saying with tipping at a restaurant. You can't afford to tip at the restaurant. You probably shouldn't go. But I'm trying to have this conversation with my son and see like, okay, like if people do good service, you should tip them really well. But at the same time, you want to be thinking about like, what did you have to do to get the money that you got, that you gave to somebody else? You know what I mean? And then have the conversation with them that we're able to go to the movies. So don't you stress it. Right. But we're also not able to go to the movies every day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we don't got it like that, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want them walking around be like, we're going to the movies because I said so. No, it don't work like that, bro. But it's like, if we're going to go to the movies, we can afford to go to the movies, and all that stuff comes into play in terms of like when you're thinking about like what's a social day for, like again, a social day for me is taking my son to the movies. I'm with him. I'm not going to see anybody else. We're having fun doing something we both really, really like to do. I can ball out with that. Ball out for me means I can buy any popcorn I want, any food that's there, and it's not going to stress me. And I don't want to pass that on to him. And I hopefully like that, those to me, even though those can sound like big things to someone who can't do that, these are relatively small things. We're not trying to go climb the Swiss Alps and go buy Bavarian chocolate at a rotunda. And you know what I'm saying? It's just in Geneva. I mean, we're just talking about going to the movies, So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I could say the same thing. Like I have learned to pick up on some of that. Oh, I expected my food to be this way, or expected this kind of service. Because I think, well, okay, to connect to the topic, I think what it speaks to is the speaking up for yourself part. Like you see people like who are like in the customer service and are like, so they kind of know that this should be a certain way and it wasn't. So I'm gonna complain or speak up. So we can see it as petty, but they're like, no, these are the rules.
Right.
Like these are the rules. It wasn't delicious. So like now when I get my DoorDash, like some stuff was left off and I was like, dang, they left off my bacon, and I just went with it. And then next time something happened, they was like refunding. I was like, oh, I've been missing out on the refunds and free credits. So I was like, okay, yeah, y'all left this off and y'all did this. So then I'm getting this money back. I'm like, yeah. Now I'm like, hold on, let me see if y'all left something off because I'm gonna make sure I get this time. So yeah, I think there's something to the unforgiveness part because it's like, man, the introverts, if they could let that energy rub off on them, they would speak up and be like, yo, I didn't like when you did that. or I didn't like when you said that, or I didn't like that you didn't, respect that. But I think on the flip side, the extroverts need to also rub off and like, yo, dog, just chill. Like
Right.
this dude got 700 people he's been
Exactly.
serving a day. Like, I'm sorry he forgot your
Yeah.
one
For
bacon.
$12.50 an hour. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's normally what I think. I'm like, dude, let off the bacon. All right, well, he probably forgot he got 25,000 DoorDash orders. So
Yeah.
just, a
Right.
little bit
Right.
of
Right. Like
bacon. Right.
I
So
think of that job and I'm like, I could not do that job. Like at this stage of my life, I couldn't do that job. Even though, like you said, we've done those customer service kind of jobs. It's like you think about what that kid's going through, right? Really think about it. You're making $12.50 an hour to deal with irritating people all day long that are asking for light ice. It's like that's a. I mean, I
light
couldn't.
ice.
You asking me for light ice like 3 times in a row, I'm done. See, that's the other thing. I don't want you asking that of me either because I'm not asking it of you. If a bunch of people ask me for light ice, I'm quitting tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like
I just couldn't believe it.
I don't have tolerance for that.
That thing came on the screen. I said, "Do we got a drink called Easy Ice?"
Right.
It was like,
Oh,
no.
easy ice. My
I
bad.
literally was. I was like, "Yo, what is?" I said, "I see High C, I see Sprite, I see
I say
Coke."
it though. I say it. When I go to the pretzel place in the mall with it, like I generally want the big soda. You know, soda's my vice, right? I'm like, I generally want the big diet soda. I generally want all the big diet soda. So I am. You can be light on that ice, by the way. You can give him the ice. Like he's good. Like I don't want to be totally feel like I'm cheap. It ain't that I'm cheap. I just want it all. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, I guess I am because I could just buy another one. But I'm like, at the same time, you could not fill that thing with ice. Lady, yesterday went to a restaurant. Shout out to Mike's in where is it? Sterling. I don't know the cities out here yet enough. Is it Sterling? Sterling, Virginia? Does that make sense? Sterling.
There is a Sterling.
Okay, then it's Sterling. No, where's the mall? Springfield and Sterling. I think they're close, right? So out by Springfield, right? It's a restaurant called Mike's. You look it up. We go a lot. We've been there a lot, especially my in-laws and stuff. We go, and the lady brought me 4 Diet Cokes. And my son's like, Daddy's had 4 Diet Cokes. Like, he's the police, He's like, I'm like, son, the cup is this big and it's completely filled with ice. And I told the lady the last time she came, I was like, I could have saved you a lot of trouble. Like, just not put the ice in. You could have come once. I'm saying, like I appreciate you coming back and bringing me like 4 Diet Cokes, but it's like it's like this high, right under the white label, completely filled with ice, and it's like you're putting 2.5 ounces of soda in there. It's like I would have just taken the one with 10 ounces to begin with, or 12 or whatever. So that's neither here nor there. But I think Springfield is near what do I call it? Sterling.
Sterling. Yeah. So I think, yeah, we're always doing the flip back and forth so you can see both sides. So yeah, I think to us, those things are petty, but they're playing according to their rules, which is not petty. Like you said, they've dreamed this their whole life.
They've dreamed it their whole life, right?
Likewise, we've done the same thing. Like we've dreamed of like making beats and raps our whole
we've
life.
set up the whole life that way.
So if there's one little, breath or something or one little glitch, we're like, they're like, what? It doesn't even bother. It's like, no. Like we're like, no, absolutely not. That glitch must be removed. That blemish must be removed. That light.
You know what I do like though?
Come on.
I do like when there's an unexpected glitch and then you have to ponder on, right? This is the big question for the introverted engineer. Like, do I actually like that? Or am I being just like, am I just trying to fudge it? Right. I'm like, no, I actually like this. And whenever that happens, I really have it's like a whole nother, it's a Zen moment. I'm like, wait a minute, there's something cool about that mistake. Right. And then I'm like, oh, I got to leave it. I was doing one today. I had a mistake in there and I was like, ooh, that actually kind of works. What I did was I did 3 verses in a row. I wasn't sure where they wanted me to put my verse on this track that I'm doing. Right. And so it's like 5 minutes and 30 seconds or something. It's a jazz song. Right. And so I did the 16 and I stopped the verse. I physically recorded it 3 times and I stopped the verse on the mix right on 4 bars. And it was like, and I heard it and I was like, and I started fixing the and I was like, wait a minute, I need to fix the whole thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, right at 4 bars was actually kind of cool. So what I did was I had the first 4 bars of my rap on the first verse. Then the second verse has 8 bars of the rap. And then the third verse, all of which I'm not sure where they want it, I did the full 16. And I was like, you know what, this is kind of cool for a jazz song. Like I give a little teaser and it all started because of the mistake. And I was like, but so the mistake led to that. And, but yeah. And I heard that it went over the edge and I was like, oh, let me fix that. And I'm like, why am I fixing this thing? I'm not even, and I'm like, you know what? 4 bars is kind of a cool idea. And it was right on the 4 bars. So that was a mistake that stayed. But they're probably going to scrap it, of course. But
well, so yeah, but like the thing, like you're saying, flip to both sides. They back what I was saying about the petty, the small, like they don't understand the introvert rules, which is like one off thing, whether it be art or injustice. We're like, it's all off.
Oh yes.
I mean, think about the MLK quote: "Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere." That's
right.
that reverberation thing. That's like, oh, you can't have injustice over there, but like, but we all over here cool. It's like, yeah, but look at that person. That one little blemish is a big deal because it's a whole person.
Yeah, I mean,
so I'm gonna okay. So let's take it to all right, because I wanted to go back to something about privilege because I got a whole thing on this.
Cool.
So I was watching this documentary about these children of the like SS officers over in Germany, and so they were doing a tour, just going around and like telling, yeah, my grandfather was Hermann Goering, or I can't remember the actual SS officers, under Hitler, like top guys, and they were like grandchildren, great grandchildren, whatever. And so they were like, hey, like we didn't do anything, we were just kids, like, but we feel the shame, like we just feel shame, so we feel like we need to be out here talking and asking for forgiveness and like just traveling around. So like one of the guys was like, yeah, this was horrible. The other guy was trying to kind of like iconize.
Shout out to Blackies.
This other guy was kind of trying to like he knew his dad or granddad did wrong, but he was still trying to like uphold him in a certain light of like, but and so the two of them on their tour were kind of at odds. He's like, yo, you're in denial, like just oh, this happened, like this happened.
Right.
So what's interesting is there's this one stop that they made, and this one woman, she was just like, your like grandfather like killed my grandmother. And like she was still, I mean, this is years later, obviously. And so that's what I think about when you talk about privilege. I think for people who haven't suffered or been through any kind of like seriousness, I think they err towards forgiveness quickly. They're like, yeah, forgive. Because it's like, yeah, you want to be forgiven.
Right,
like,
right.
You feel,
and that's that quickly thing.
Yeah, it's like you feel this guilt, you feel this shame, so you want forgiveness to enter quickly because it's affecting you.
It's hurting you. Yeah.
Where this other woman, she's like, she's been through the trauma, and I don't remember, decades later, she's still visibly, physically crying, like, you grandfather, and just like, oh, come on, like, get over that. Just like, no.
You've got a lifetime now to live with that. Yeah.
So the word, I think that privilege idea of like, have you been through something? Right. I think I tend to talk to people who haven't been through something. They don't empathize with the unforgiveness or the grudge aspect. It's like their mind can't wrap around. They're like, I don't understand why you be holding something so deep.
What are you holding it so long for?
Like, well, maybe you haven't been hurt that deep to understand why someone who would hold on to something that long. There's another documentary, similar kind of thing. This woman, her granddad, like he was an SS officer or something, and she went like met a family, and they were having a conversation, and like she knew too. She knew like, yeah, my granddad and my mom or whatever, they would just be out in the house every day, and your family was oppressed by them or whatever. And then she was just like, for whatever reason, she was just in straight denial. She was just like, yeah, I don't know what was going on. And then the woman was like, have you lost your mind? She's like, why are you now denying this? And she's on camera, just like, yeah. So I can understand if you have that much shame and guilt, why you want the other person to forgive, because it's eating you.
You got to bury that under the rug and move on. All right. Please help me sleep better.
It's consuming you from the inside, but you have to understand this grudge is also consuming them from the inside. So I think that point of privilege is something that people don't think about in terms of forgiveness. It's like, if you encounter somebody who seems like they're always angry, it was like, you should ask yourself, what do you think that they might have gone through? Right. Because if they can't forgive quickly, maybe that like I said, the amount that they can't forgive is equal to the amount of which they've been hurt.
Yeah, that formula probably works. Yeah, it is amazing watching people be like, like trying to sweep your pain under the rug so that they can sleep better at night. It's just, it's a marvelous thing. Can't we all just move on past it?
Right.
Like,
We
because
need
now's
forgiveness.
the first time you've probably ever thought about it, and now you want to move past it today, right? Like it's the very first time, and it could have been a lifetime or 2 lifetimes in the point of someone's grandfather. Sitting with them, and it's like, can't we just like move on past? Kumbaya needs to be now. Sorry that your sleep patterns are going to be a little disgruntled tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like, can I get you a pillow? No, that's what I was saying too at the beginning. It's like I'm down with the whole forgive, right? And eventually forget. I don't know if it's 100% forget. It's like you're like it was back to the evolutionary protection. It's like I don't know, I'm gonna probably still remember if you were like a little
Right.
psycho. Like, like I know we can all have a moment of psychoness, but I'm gonna probably remember that if it was a jeopardy thing to my life. So the forget thing might be, oh yeah, it's water under the bridge. Is it completely water under the bridge all the time? Like when we say that? Because a lot of times, like I'm just saying it out of security. I'm like, yo, dude's a psycho. Letting it go right now. It's not fully gone. We'll probably discuss in a better scenario where life is not at risk. I was at a show in Cambridge once. Shout out to Cambridge hip hop, and this dude decided to do sort of like a social experiment. He pretended that he was abusing a woman in a show, and it looked like he was about to beat her badly. Big dude, right? And he's like yelling at her and all this kind of stuff, right? And I'm like way in the back, right? And there's usually when you're way, way, way in the back, you're not going to be able to do anything, right? But you might leave, tell someone, and you might try to move up, right? You might try to move out. I don't know. It depends where you're at and your stuff, right? People formed like an ocean, it like part of the Red Sea. It was like everyone got away and just watched this dude. And this was before the sort of dawn of the internet and all that kind of stuff. The internet was there. That wasn't the dawn of the internet. Dawn of social media. It was like 2004, right? And I remember why it was 2000. It wasn't like 2004. It was 2003 actually. It was 2003, and the room like opened, and the dude gets on the mic afterwards and he say, "Hey, just so y'all know, this was all fake, and y'all did not act the right way." He's like, "No one came to help. No one went to call anybody. Nobody called the police. Nobody. Y'all were just standing around like business as usual in
Right.
this kind of environment." And yeah, right. Tree, very disturbing. Right. It was very disturbing. And people, and the thing is, it was like it goes back to our earlier point. It's like, are you prepared to react in all scenarios? Like I have a very different reaction in an arena where I feel that I'm being threatened, right? As
Right.
opposed to like I'd have a different one if my son's being threatened. Like you almost need to know what you do. Like what would you do in situation X, Y, and Z? I'm not saying you
It's
need
a
to have
whole
the exact.
show.
Yeah, but you don't need the whole like you don't need 15 different scenarios. I'm like, if somebody is like punching my son, right? Like, what am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the appropriate reaction? Like, how far is too far, kind of thing, so that it isn't just reaction, because reaction is stupid. Reaction will get you killed if you haven't
Right.
really thought about it, right? Because my reaction to see someone doing that or whatever might be something that would either put me in jail, right? It might be do something that could kill someone. It might be something that would get the lady killed, like if I don't do enough, right? Our reaction is super important. I don't think we think about this kind of stuff enough. What would you do? And then if it's not a good answer, do you continue to put yourself in that environment if you have the privilege not to? Right? Like there are certain places I choose not to go on a regular basis because
Right.
I know the probability and likeliness of something happening ugly at that particular place are higher than if I just chilled in my house. Now, I'm not saying I don't go out ever, but this is what leads to the whole, oh, you're a hermit. No, I've just said, okay, like there's a place in Lowell. I used to go to the Honky Tonk on Friday. It's probably the worst place you could possibly go, right? It's called the Honky Tonk, and probably for a good reason. It was like this old white trash bar that had met with a lot of friction and became like a hip hop bar, right? And it wasn't old and white anymore, right? It was like the young urban crowd had taken over the old white, like, like bastion of where they were holding on to, like, this is our bar kind of thing, right? Shout out to the Honky Tonk. And I mean, it was just the dregs of humanity kind of spot. Like you had no business being up in there. Like I had no business being up in there, but I know the DJ and I know the club and it's right
Right.
around the corner from my house. I don't even drink, but I found myself in there all the time. And every single time I was in there, there's drama. And then we go to Santoro's after, and there's always drama. Now I go to Santoro's, I get my vegetarian sub, and I'm bouncing, right? But you can't get in and out of there quick enough. Like I'm like, oh man, is it 1:30 yet? The letouts have happened. Like you have to think in the head, like what's the formula like here that you want to be? How often do you want to put yourself in these ridiculous situations, especially when you start to have things to lose, right? You start going, I got this to lose, I got this to lose, I got this to lose. I don't want to put myself in there. And you're right. It is a whole show. It's like, what would your reaction be in a bad situation? And then once you know that this is a high likeliness of bad situation, I think the survival thing should kick in too and say, this is not good for my survival or my well-being. We talk about this after the fact stuff. Oh, well-being. We need to go get a massage. And no, that's after you're already stressed. I'm talking about what are you doing to prevent the things from happening so that you'll get stressed in the first place? Because if you catch a case, you're going to be stressed. Right? Like, what are things that can be preventative catch a case medicine, right? And then what are the things you're willing to catch a case for? Conversely.
Well, I was saying there's a whole show, John Quinones, What Would You Do? You've probably seen that show.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that show. Yeah. I think he's
I mean,
he reminds me of my father-in-law, by the way, his whole mannerisms. We'd always have him watch it. We're like, yo, he reminds me of you.
I'm John Quinones. Why did you step in?
Why did you, great for you. You. It's always in a restaurant in some like trucker stop.
Don't call the police. We're here.
What happened to that show? Is it still on? That's done, right?
I think so. I don't know. It's one of those you can bring it back.
I gotta bring that back. We should bring it back. Why don't we do
introverts? What would you do?
What would you do, introverts?
Well, we wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Step
be there.
one. Go to the crib.
Yeah.
Well, to that point though, yeah, like I'll talk about what I call full body empathy. It's like the problem with the way school has taught kids is that you're literally, like Ken Robbins said, educated from the neck up and to the slightly to the left. So you're sitting there listening to knowledge, but you're not really applying it to how your full body feels in the moment. It's a whole different thing to be in the moment where your feelings are at play and you're like, oh, right, I was going to ask this girl out, but I didn't think that her friend and her ex-boyfriend, now, like, you can't do stuff in the moment because in the moment
it's not going to lead to survival.
You can't learn the lines on stage. You have to have them memorized and part of who you are, and then you can just go. Like I said, this guy Thomas, who I've been listening to on his acting master classes on Clubhouse, he's like, do all your prep work. He's like, trust your prep work. When you come into the scene, you're just supposed to be sensing the other actor and like, what are they bringing? What are you bringing? What are you not? It's like, yeah, you can't do all that stuff when it's time because your brain's like, oh yeah, remember the lines and then walk this way. It's like, no, you got to be present to be able to interact with the present energy. So yeah, full body empathy. Like you have to have mind, emotions, body. You have to experience the whole 3-dimension, time, space, 5 senses. And I think that's the problem with why a lot of people can't connect with other people's pain because they're like, oh, you say you're hurt. Okay, let me try to imagine that. I don't think you should be hurt. It's like, yeah, because you literally are just trying to like think of the most isolated, safe place in your mind, which is your imagination, where you can't, where nothing. Oh, if it was me, I'd just do this. It's like, okay, well, let's tie you to a chair. Let's make it hot in this room. Okay, let's see you break out of the ropes. Yeah, now your body's involved. But to your point too about the like being prepared ahead of time. I mean, I'll connect it to the forgiveness thing because what I was going to say is, as far as holding grudges,
right?
Okay, let's say a person does overcome a grudge, and the other person's like, "Oh, great, good, you forgave me." The problem that has happened with me, at least, is that person usually doesn't do the work to be like, "Okay, how do I make sure this doesn't happen again?" They're just happy to be forgiven. Like they're just so excited that the relationship is restored and like, great, that is past.
Moving on.
That's out of the way. There's nothing between us. I'm like, there's still stuff between us.
Still stuff there, baby.
That's what I had to learn. I had to learn the difference between forgiveness, reconciliation, and trust.
Right.
I used to think all those were intertwined. And so I was like, I don't want to forgive this person because now I got to be with them. It's like, not necessarily. So now I've practiced being like, okay, I forgive you. Literally give. It's in the time. It's a gift. Like if I forgive you, I give it to you. I try to do my best when I'm around you to like, hey, what's up? Hey, yeah, we're good. Doesn't mean I'm excited for you. Doesn't mean I'm excited to be with you.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm gonna call you up. Doesn't mean we're gonna hang out. Doesn't mean when you say, "Hey man, so how's things going?" that I'm gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this." I'm just like, "What's up? Yeah, stuff is going good." Like somebody that happened to me with somebody, he was like, "Hey man, like what's been going on?" And we ain't seen each other in years. I know he was asking what's been going on with me in the years we haven't seen, but I was like, "Yep, today I was just chilling." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I was chilling today too." I was like, "That's all I'm gonna give you." I was like, "That's all I feel like I can give you because you haven't done any work to come back and be like, hey man, let's repair that. Like I forgave you, you forgave me, but we haven't repaired the trust."
Yeah.
So the forgiveness I give you, the trust has to be earned. It's a currency. It's you have to do the work. They're like, it's not like a option. It's like there's no way around it. Like you have to rebuild the bridge of trust. The bridge was broken. I said, hey man, it's okay, you broke my bridge. But if you want to come back across, you got to like put the wood down again and the bricks and do the work. Like you got to build the bridge back.
Yeah. Or else until you might break
it. Yeah. Until you do that, I'm not going to be able to reconcile with you because I'm probably not going to put in a lot of energy to do a running start and like, okay, let me run over the hole that was created between the bridges and now I'm at your place. Nah, you got to come to your edge of the bridge. And if I see you coming towards the edge of the bridge, I'm not even going to say for sure. I might come towards your edge of the bridge, but you have to prove to me that you understand what you did, and like you said, you got to demonstrate now and future actions that you won't do it again. Because otherwise, you're gonna be back in the same scenario where I'm forgiving you again for the same thing. So that thing you're saying about upfront, that's why we get so mad. Because I'm like, yo, if you would just think
upfront,
if you would just think first, there would be no rifts. Like obviously we're not perfect. Yeah, I mean obviously no one's perfect.
Yeah.
But it would be, at the very least, it shows effort that you care not to mess it up.
Right.
Preparation. Like if I came in and taught some students and I didn't prepare for the class, I could be understandable why parents would be mad. Like, why did you not prepare to teach our kids who were putting in your care? Like you just show up and they're going to teach? No, prep. Even if my lesson wasn't perfect, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, great, but okay, you need to adjust that. Cool. But I'm like, "Oh, guys, let's figure it out." No, I'm gonna prep. So when you come into the relationship and you don't prep, you don't think, "Oh, what's this person like? What are their preferences? What are their values? What should I say? What should I not say?" If you're just like, "Let's just be friends," I'm like, "No, that's terrifying," because it's proven to me, the little micro again, your eagerness to just jump in a relationship shows me there's a bigger problem of eagerness. Like you're eager, you're too eager.
Right.
Like you're not just friendly, you're overly eager.
And I can
there's
take
a difference.
Take this back to your genes, man. I could be like, your genes are trying too hard. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes your genes are trying too hard. There's just too many rips. You're just too eager. It's just you're too social. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple pairs every now and then. I look at them. I go, what am I trying to convey with this man? Like I am trying too hard right here. And I think Tree hit it early on the other comment. She said amends need to be made following a sorry. Exactly. Bernard, I think we should sponsor our show with Sir. I think Sir Ken should be a sponsor of our show. Sir Ken or Ted. By the way, I wanted to share, speaking of prep, I wanted to share one of my syllabi with you. I'm always thinking of every time you said it. So this was a syllabi of mine when I was at Northeastern here. And this is, what is this? This is a grad course in teach mathematics for future math professors, right? Or teachers, right? And so look what I gave him, baby. Second class, watch Sir Ted. Schools kill creativity. Second day of class base. I'm right there with you. We open it up on discussion board. We go into it. I couch it this way. Questions to consider for discussion board posting based on reading review. What are the challenges of today's teachers, specifically today's urban teacher? What are some resources available to teachers? What is the mathematics debate? How does this all function around the needs of society? There's a few things going on there, but yeah, I would always have that in there, at least early on. And like we say with preparation too, like a lot of times these syllabi that we have as teacher, let me stop sharing this. Syllabi that we have as teacher can kill creativity too, because we follow these templates and we have to be, but at least it shows the student we've prepared. We thought about the lectures, what it's going to be. But there's also, you can be too prepared, right? You can have not enough flexibility. And we need to take that onus too as introverts and be like, look, it's not every single thing. Like I'm letting natural discourse come into play in my classes, in my life, whatever. But the big things, like when I'm thinking about how I'm going to get there, where I'm going, who I'm going to be with, These are things that are just they're happening on every decision to make. And like when I think of decorating a room or what I'm going to put, I'm like, what's it going to lead to? What am I trying to achieve? Is it spend like I didn't want to go, back to the adhesive. I didn't want to go buy this stuff because it's expensive and it's very permanent,
Right.
right? But I'm like, enough of these things falling off my wall. I'm thinking, I just want it to be flexible. I'll take it off. I'm gonna go invest in the right materials to make the stuff happen, right? I'm gonna buy the right desk. I'm gonna get the little stand for my computer. I'm gonna get the right stuff for the tools of the trade that I need. And when someone goes, "Oh, it's amazing how this," no, it isn't amazing. We planned it all out. Like we just like you plan a room, like an architect. Obviously, you thinking in advance. You thinking, how are you gonna make this stuff work for me? But you can do that in all areas of your life, and it really, really isn't that bad. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I am not, but I do give it a thought. Right? I'm like, I think about. I do this at my work. I do this at when I'm parking at the university. I park on the front side of the. Anybody watching me probably wondering, like, who's ever watched who works with me. I park on the front side when I have no plans of leaving. I park on the back side when I am leaving because it's parked at a red light. And so when I come out the front entrance and I have to turn left at the end of the road and turn right, I have to not only hit the light at the end, there's a light right to where the back of the building would be. So there's two red lights. And this might sound neurotic, but I got two red lights, one of which I can turn right on red, but I still got to wait if someone's in front of me to get there and then get to the other one. Or I can park in the back if I know I'm going in that direction, which means I'm usually going off to our other campus. And it saves me almost 5 minutes. It's quicker to go out the back, by the way, than it is for me to get all the way out to the other entrance. I have to get in my car, go further out, go along, come around the back. It's those kind of things. And it sounds like 5 minutes, but it's like 5 minutes. How many days a week? Like personally, I'm at my thing at least 3 days, right? Granted, it's only 9 months, but it's 9 months, 3 days. I'm there. And how many of those times am I going to main campus? Well, I only park on the ones that I'm going out to main campus right afterwards. So even if that's 2 times, it's probably is about 2 times a week minimum that I'm going out. So I'm saving myself 5 minutes. Wouldn't you want to save yourself 5 minutes on average if you could, just to have for yourself? Like, what could you do with those 5 minutes? And you can call that too prepared. I just call that smart. There's no skin off my back to do that. And people are like, yo, why do you park in two different places all the time? Like, actually, there's only one person who's noticed, but like, but
Other introvert.
But it's like, yeah, right. But it's like, that's why I do it. It's not because I like
Right.
to park in the back of the building to hide my car. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and I could, if I had to write a list of all the things that I do like that are preparation based that no one will see, it's a long list. It's just a long, long list. And I know that about myself and I respect that about myself. So when I find people who do that, I'm usually finding an introvert. But when I find someone who does that, I'm very intrigued by their mind off the bat because I go, oh, you know what? You're a thinker. And I'm probably going to like your company because you're going to stimulate me to think better thoughts than I can think on my own. That's it.
Well, I'll end with this. Yeah, like, yeah, you're missing out on the introvert friendships who can like make your life better.
Right.
But yeah, so to connect all the dots, I think I'll end with this point and a story related. Okay, so I think as we've talked about in the past, it's just value systems. Introverts, extroverts value different things. So when it comes to friendship, I think the introvert obviously has one point of view, which is like, hey, yeah, this could be friends. Like we might, though. Like don't. There's no guarantee it might, and it's gonna take a longer time than you're probably wanting it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the extrovert's like, no, we're instant friends. Like I got somebody
Folgers.
that's like, she's like, we're
Folger
instant
friends.
She's like, we're instant friends until you do something that tells me we're not friends. And I was like, okay.
A lot of energy.
So I was like, okay, that's you. So they're coming with one kind of, like you say, short. We're coming with the long. So it's like, all right, somehow you're gonna have to meet in the middle, and you have to agree. It's all about agreement. I'm always talking about agreement. There's got to be some kind of agreement of like, okay, well, what are we doing? You're saying we're friends. Like what does that mean? Because to you that means like
brand new right now.
To you that means that to you that's like eager and early. That's like the extrovert. 3 E's. Extroverts want eager and early friendship. The introverts like, no, I'm not that eager for it, and it's not gonna happen this early. Like it's gonna take some time. So that's just in general with friendship. So if you're an extrovert and you're like, oh, how come this person isn't forgiving me quickly or becoming my friend quickly? It's like, well, because they're Their approach to life is long term, big picture, deep. Yours is more short, quick, and not as deep. So here I had so the story is there was a person, a friend of mine who wanted to meet, and I already knew. I was like, if we're meeting and you're on the phone, like I'm gonna be annoyed. Like I just already can like this was the first we had a meeting to talk about continuing to meet. And so he was on the phone getting text messages and answering. I was like, I'm already upset now. Like I'm upset now. Like you asked me to meet and you're on the phone. Like, what's the point? Like, I don't need to be here for you to be on the phone. So I said, okay, if we're gonna do this, I was like, there's got to be no phone taking. He was like, oh, I can't. What? I got calls I got to take and people. I need to be in communication. So we discussed. He was like, all right. So what if the first hour that we're meeting, there's no phone. I'll put it in my pocket. It's off. But after that, I can bring it out if I need to. I was like, okay, we made an agreement because I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do the thing you want to do if you're not connected because I could just stay at home. But he was unable to because it was related to business and family. So I guess he was like, I can't be totally disconnected. Right. Which, obviously is the opposite for me. I was like, I can just cut everybody off. Like, bye.
Everybody. Yep.
I'm like focused on you. Like when I'm with somebody, it's like, it's all about you, me and you. Everybody else is dead. I'm dead to the world. So I think
another pro marriage for Bernard right there. Not only will he know the shoes and the hair, he can pay full attention to you.
Yeah, just keep putting my checklist up there. Right. That'll be another T-shirt. Introvert special reasons to marry Bernard checklist. So what I'm say, like just like the extroverts speak up and say, hey, this is what I want in the food and send it back. The introverts got to be the same way in the friendships. Just be like, hey, look, this is the things I need in a relationship. This is the things I need in a friendship. Like this is what we have to agree on, because if we can't, then it's just going to be unforgiveness. So I know it's difficult for most people because how many people think like, oh man, I just met this person. Let's set boundaries and rule. Like most people don't do that. They just start being friends and it's fun. And then something happens and the boundaries are crossed and then everybody's upset. So you have to just be like, yo, we're on purpose going to talk about boundaries and what upsets me. And it's going to have to be that way because otherwise you're going to upset me and you're going to be like, why are you mad? And then I'm going to be like, why didn't I tell you up front? So it's not easy, but I'm just saying like what people have to do is like be assertive, communicative to say we need to decide up front like how we're going to do this.
And Henry has decided that he's put his boundary in when he's playing with my headphones. And he's like, it's 8:00. All right, it's a wrap. I appreciate it, Henry. Thanks for the alarm clock. All right. Well, we're going to go out with the Introverse theme song, and it goes like this. You have to put the headphones on to hear it because you can't hear it on that one.
I can hear you.
He's listening.